The deal is signed, it proving to be a tough sell. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The top news stories
and conversations that matter to you.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
A victory lap? Alberta Premier Danielle Smith was mostly smiles this weekend, just days after inking a deal with Prime Minister Carney and the Liberals in Ottawa on the eve of her party's policy convention in Edmonton. Premier Smith suggested last week her deal with the Carney government that could include a pipeline to the West Coast could take the steam out of the Alberta independence movement. And that's how she framed it during her speech to the party faithful. Smith blamed the former Liberal government of Justin Trudeau, propped up by the NDP's Jagmeet Singh, for the problems facing Alberta.
At that time, the federal NDP Liberal coalition government in Ottawa, led by then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his friend, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, they were doing everything they possibly could to choke off and ultimately destroy our province's energy and agricultural sectors. Think about that. Literally the first and second largest parts of our economy were under attack by our very own federal government. They were attempting to take control of multiple areas of provincial jurisdiction: energy, health, education, childcare, you name it.
Premier Smith then went on to sell the new Ottawa-Alberta deal as a reset of the relationship.
Together we have stopped and driven back the extreme anti-energy movement in our country. We have helped to turn the tide of national public opinion from being anti-oil and gas into a country-wide consensus that Alberta's energy resources are a national treasure that can and must be developed. Those who had opposed us, including the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his governing partner, the former federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, along with so many others who sought Alberta's economic demise, they've seen their political careers come to an abrupt and dramatic end. Including, I would add, former Trudeau Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault.
But during a question and answer session with party supporters, not everyone was sold on Smith's peace deal with Ottawa.
As you know, I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
It's not just some UCP supporters who are not entirely sold on this new deal between the federal Liberals and the Alberta government. As Premier Smith noted, the former federal Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, announced he's leaving the cabinet in protest. And while Liberal MPs are putting up a united front, not everyone is buying that, like Jenny Kwong, an NDP MP from British Columbia.
Well, that's what they were saying yesterday, and then by the end of the day, Stephen Guilbeault has left cabinet. I know that they have their talking points, and they're going to keep on using those talking points, but the reality is Liberal MPs who gives a wit about the environment, who gives a wit about free, prior, informed consent and respecting First Nations, who gives a wit about the coastal communities, who gives a wit about British Columbia, will have these sentiments. They might be keeping it to themselves at the moment, but time will tell whether or not they will speak out against it and take action. We all get elected to come to this place, to stand on something, and whether or not this is a breaking point for them, time will tell.
The current Environment Minister in the Carney government is Julie DeBruzen, a downtown Toronto MP, and she's been given the job as Environment Minister to try and defend the possibility of a new pipeline and the possible end of the West Coast tanker ban.
Let's be clear about what's in this agreement. And the Memorandum of Understanding is actually quite clear on many of the steps. One piece is it sets out a process for if there would be a pipeline. There's a process that's set in place. But what there is that is concrete in there is actual agreements that the province will be working with us in a way that, we have not seen the industrial carbon price working effectively in Alberta. They have an agreement now specifically to work towards an effective industrial carbon price. It's one of our most important tools in reducing emissions. We have in it an agreement to work with us on methane, and clean electricity is the single most important thing, too, as we look at how we're going to build out a clean electrical grid right across our country for the future. They actually have, and it's clearly set out in the Memorandum of Understanding, an agreement to work with us to get there.
One of the leading voices against any new pipeline from Alberta to BC remains the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, who's now saying he could back a pipeline, but only if the tanker ban stays in place.
I look at Danielle Smith and I see a Premier of Alberta that she has a political imperative for her political party that she needs to meet. And am I going to be upset with Danielle Smith for advancing what the United Conservative Party wants her to do? Like, I understand that. The Prime Minister needs to de-escalate with Alberta and find a path forward. I understand that. The part where I'm going to get my elbows up, to borrow a phrase, is when this conversation about this non-existent project begins to actively compromise projects here in British Columbia that are real and meaningful and will actually make a difference in British Columbia for people who live here, for our government's finances, for federal government finances, and so on. And it really pissed me off that we lost the Nutrien deal, because I think that was entirely avoidable. And that is the one that gets under my skin. That is the one that makes me really unhappy. We cannot afford as a country or as a province to lose real projects in the name of politics right now.
Any new pipeline to the West Coast would require an ownership stake from First Nations. Coastal First Nations in BC say they're against it. The Assembly of First Nations has said Prime Minister Carney will speak at its Special Chiefs Assembly. That starts tomorrow in Ottawa. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Black Friday is all over. Today is what's known as Cyber Monday. Tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. And Food Banks Canada would like you to keep your local food bank in mind because of the surge in demand. Erin Filey-Wronecki is with Food Banks Canada. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you today. How would you describe demand at food banks in Canada?
Unsustainable, I think, is a good word to describe it. We continue to see record-setting levels of food bank usage in the country. So we expect to see about 2.2 million visits to food banks in the month of December. That is double from 2019. So the last data point we have from before the pandemic.
So unsustainable. That's not encouraging. What impact has there been on food bank operations and donations to food banks?
So the communities continue to be very generous, and we know that Canadians don't want to see anybody go without. So we continue to see really great donations from across the country. But the fact of the matter is that the increased need, the food bank system wasn't built to do this type of work, to do at this level. And so we're seeing food banks across the country having to make really tough decisions over the coming months because the need is just so great, and there's only so much that they can do to fill it.
When you say the food banks were not designed to deal with this sort of situation, they were designed for something else. What were they designed to do, and what are they doing instead?
So they were really designed to help people out in an emergency, right? So you've lost your job, you've got nowhere to go, you go to the food bank, you get back up on your feet, and off you go. But right now, food banks are seeing more and more people who are fully employed. That is a statistic that has us really quite nervous. About 20% of people that are turning to food banks now are fully employed. So essentially, the food bank system is propping up what is really a cracked social safety net.
What are the winter months usually like for food banks across the country?
So the winter months can be a bit tough because obviously you've got, you're sort of through the harvest and like all of us, getting fresh fruits and vegetables can be a bit of a challenge because the costs go up. And then for the need, people have different expenses in the winter. So your heating bill's coming in. If you've got a particularly cold winter, that heating bill is going to come in and it's going to be higher than obviously what you pay in the summer months. And then, maybe your kids need a winter coat or they need new boots. So we all have different expenses in the winter months. And then that can put some additional pressure on the food banks.
Okay. What makes tomorrow, Giving Tuesday, so important to an organization like yours?
So it's a really important day for us for a couple of reasons. One, we have an amazing partner in Skip who is currently matching donations. So from November 25th to December 2nd, they're matching donations to Food Banks Canada. So you can go to foodbankscanada.ca, stretch your dollar if you're going to make a donation. And overall for Giving Tuesday, it is a really great opportunity for those of us who have the ability to make those donations to take a moment, pause, think about, before we get into sort of that hectic world of the holiday season, to think about those of us in this country that maybe aren't going to have the same sort of December that we will, and make those contributions where we can.
Yeah, and in fact, this is the time of year when Canadians are feeling charitable and more generous. As I understand it, about half of your donations are made in the final 6 weeks of the year. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, about half of our revenue from individual donors comes in the last 6 weeks of the year. So it's a really important time for Food Banks Canada and for food banks across the country. This is when people start to feel a little bit of extra charity, and so we really do rely on those contributions to make sure that we can keep those food banks the shelves stocked and filled and ready for for those of us who need that support.
I've heard in the past, food donations are good when you see, a crate at the grocery store that's doing a food drive. That's good. And food drives are good. But what is really beneficial for food banks is a monetary donation. Because of the buying power of food banks, you can really multiply or leverage that monetary donation. Can you explain that a bit, please?
Yeah, so food banks are buying more than ever, so that's also an important to note. But they do. They have relationships. We have relationships with producers, food manufacturers, buying clubs. So we're able to scale. So for that, instead of that can of soup or that jar of peanut butter, you might put in the bin at the grocery store, which is obviously, we encourage any donation in any format, but we can oftentimes get double and triple that for the same cost. So absolutely, donations are king. That said, any help that you can give is much appreciated.
Okay. What can government do to reduce food insecurity?
So we have Food Banks Canada. We have three sort of key policy recommendations that we're looking for the federal government to take initiative on. One is to tackle the root causes of poverty. So we have as I said, a cracked, if you will, social safety net. So our EI system really doesn't support those of us who are working precarious work, multiple part-time jobs, the gig economy, self-employed workers. The Canada Disability Benefit was a great start, but it is still not enough to help those of us that, can't work, make ends meet. We need to see the government, make life more affordable. So the housing continues to be one of the number one issues that drives people to food banks. So, investing in that housing stock, which we know is a long-term problem or a long-term solution, but also things like rental assistance, introducing a groceries and essential benefit, which is essentially a top-up to the GST rebate. It's a very simple way for the government to get money to the hands of low-income people because they've already been sort of evaluated. And then really looking at the north, because we haven't even talked about how challenging it is in northern Canada, and really thinking about how we can improve the lives of those of us that live above, in the territories.
Okay. Great to hear from you today. I'm glad you can join us ahead of Giving Tuesday. Hope it raises some awareness out there of the issue. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye.
You too. That's Erin Filey-Wronecki with Food Banks Canada. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. You can listen live or listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Taking a look at the financial markets to start the week. In a bit of a sour mood today. A lot of red on the board today with, there are no great losses, but certainly a down day for the markets. The Dow's down more than 200 points. The TSX is down 141 points. The NASDAQ is off about 40 points. Once again, the big story, I hate to break it to you again, Curtis. Gosh, you're going to have to sell one of those Ferraris. The Bitcoins. Down 7% today and back below $85,000 US, 84,867 for one Bitcoin. About the only upside today, gold prices. What a year it has been for gold. Back to $42.64 US an ounce, and oil prices are up slightly today. They're up about 1.5%, $59 oil, $59.50 US, as a matter of fact, and the Canadian dollar in the mid 71 cent US range. The trend is down for gas prices across the country. Big drop in Halifax in the mid $1.40 range last week, down to the low 130s now, $1.30 a liter. About the same in this part of the country, in the Ottawa area, $1.32 a liter, Kitchener, $1.31 a liter. Out in Vancouver, still hovering around $1.64, and that's like the bargain basement lowest price for gas, which makes Calgary look like the screaming deal again. According to News Radio Calgary, the average price for regular unleaded in Calgary these days, $113.2.
Rob,
and we've made it to December.
Just got to interject.
Made it to December.
It was $1 on the weekend. $1. Can you believe that? It was just under $1. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the lineup was down the street.
I bet it was. If I could get gas for $1 a liter, I'd fill up everything with an engine in the driveway, and there are quite a few of those. Okay. Very good. Our Newsday panel coming up next, right after the latest breaking news here on News Radio. Well, it's time for our Monday Newsday political panel with a lot to talk about. Matthew Dube is back with us, Vice President at Proof Strategies. Matthew's a former NDP MP back in the day. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, very good to hear from you. And Kevin Deagle is Vice President at Crestview Strategy. Welcome back. Good to hear from you, Kevin.
Thank you, Rob. Good to be here.
Well, with the House of Commons just a couple of weeks away from breaking for the holidays, what do you think Prime Minister Carney can point to as wins for his government? And where did his government come up short? Kevin, why don't you take that one?
It's a great question, Rob. I would start with a bit of context on this one. It's important to remember that the Prime Minister is only 7 months in. The election was end of April. And what that means to me is that it takes time to steer a big ship. He's taken a number of key steps to start turning the wheel of that ship, but I think you simply need a bit more time to safely say what's a win and what isn't. But if we were to dig a little deeper, there's two buckets in my mind. There's tangible actions that you can measure. So immediate middle class tax cut. Carney did that. It's really helping Canadians in their pocketbooks. Immediately ended the consumer carbon price, removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade, and Carney's pushing provinces to hurry up and do the same. And then in the other bucket, there's positive steps. There's the major projects. And so Carney's advancing LNG facilities, massive nuclear plants, modernized ports, the list goes on and on. He's really working to attract foreign investment. I think last week, 2 weeks ago, he was in the UAE, where he agreed to a $70 billion, or the UAE agreed to a $70 billion trade deal to come into Canada. Past the budget, trade diversification, there's a lot of pieces here that are positive steps, but I don't think we've seen enough to say it's a win. The final thing I'd say on this is that perhaps the biggest win here is a tone shift. We're seeing Carney come in with a very different tone, as we've seen, particularly in Alberta. And to me, that seems to be one of his biggest wins. He's building trust with Canadians, and that's going to go a long way.
Okay. That was a two-parter now, Kevin. So where does government come up short?
I thought you'd let me get away with the second part.
No.
I think clearly where he's coming up short, maybe I wouldn't use that language, where there's still more work to do. U.S. tariffs. Obviously, we all wish we were further along with better results, lifting tariffs off the auto sector, steel, aluminum, and so on. That's challenging to do with the president that we have down in the U.S., and work continues. But there's a lot of uncertainty there. There's a lot of challenges. And then the second piece is around kind of climate policy, emissions policy. What we saw with the pipeline deal last week, I think is positive in a lot of ways, but it's left a lot of question marks around how the Carney government sees climate policy, and he'll really need to clarify some of those in order to move forwards.
All right, very interesting. Okay. Same question to you, Matthew Dube. 2 weeks to go for this session of the House of Commons. What's a win that Carney can put in the window and say, I did this? Okay, and where did he come up short?
Well, I'd echo the idea that he has his biggest win, I think, has been a political one. It's sort of changing perceptions of the Liberal Party and this government, despite the presence of folks who were there the last go around, really changing that tone, that the approach, all of that. I think it's an important political exercise for the forces of the party. I don't know if you would qualify it as a win in terms of what it means for Canadians in their everyday lives, in real life, arguably on a day-to-day basis. And I think on that front, again, I'd echo a lot of the comments that were just made. I think there's been a lot of groundwork laid for potential wins, but as it feels like we talk about so much on your show, is a lot of it, remains to be seen where those results are going to be. There's been a lot of international trips where I think good conversations have been had, but good conversations don't amount to anything tangible until there's actually a concrete agreement, and even more importantly, actual action happening from that. And so I think that's going to be a big challenge for the government in the new year, especially as time ticks on. The newness of this particular government and prime minister, it starts to become wear a little bit thin. And I guess where the flip side of that, is there's a bit of a failure, I think, too, that remains, which is managing expectations. You can sort of see the shift happening there a little bit, but I do think that this prime minister continues to be challenged with the perception that he himself reinforced in the last election campaign and what the reality has been. And that's precisely the issue around U.S. tariffs in particular, but I think a lot of these deals as well. There's only so long you can say you're a deal maker without actually having one, and the results that go along with it.
Okay. When we come back, I'm going to run down a lot of the policies and promises that have been made by Prime Minister Carney and ask you, I mean, he's a Liberal Prime Minister, but is he really? Or did Canadians, maybe unknowingly, elect a Conservative Prime Minister? When we come back to our Newsday panel, I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
We are back with Kevin Deagle, Vice President at Crestview Strategy, and Matthew Dube from Proof Strategies is our Monday Newsday political panel. So we have the Ottawa-Alberta deal now. We'll see what happens with a pipeline, but it's certainly part of the discussion. So pipeline, Liberal Prime Minister and pipeline from Alberta to BC. Let me run down some of the other Carney borrowings from the Conservative playbook, killing the consumer carbon tax, giving a middle-class tax cut, reversing the planned increase to the capital gains inclusion rate, cutting immigration levels, hitting the brakes on the EV mandates, bringing forward a bill on bail reform, cutting the GST for new home purchases, all Conservative pledges, all taken to some degree by Prime Minister Carney of the Liberals. How fair is it, Matthew, to describe Mark Carney as a Conservative Prime Minister?
Well, I think it's fair game in politics. I suspect a lot of Conservatives would find it unfair. As a New Democrat, I can appreciate how frustrating it is when Liberals take what you think are your good ideas and put them in action and kind of cut you off at the pass in a political circumstance as part of the debate. But to that point, I think I don't know if I would call Mark Carney a Conservative Prime Minister. I think that the Liberal Party has just has a very big tent and a greater willingness than I think all the other parties of being a bit more malleable in their ideology, whether that's for political gain or for actual public policy good is something we don't have time to debate today. But, I saw this in 2015 where the Liberals outjockeyed us, the NDP on the left, in order to replace Stephen Harper as the federal government. And so I think we're almost seeing something similar happening on the other side. And I think really, as I said, all it is a very large tent and a fairly flexible tolerance, I think, within that party for being willing to compromise. That's not always a bad thing. I'd leave it to Liberal members to decide whether they think it's appropriate or not. But I think that in a sport like politics where compromise is the name of the game, you can't fault him too much, but I suspect there'll be a reckoning down the road with maybe some of the more progressive members of his caucus and of his party.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Kevin, what do you think? Carney, the Conservative, what do you think?
I would not go that far, certainly, but I would say that a major divergence from Trudeau-era politics doesn't mean it's a shift to being a Conservative. I think Carney is clearly reclaiming the center here. But honestly, I don't know how much the Prime Minister thinks in these terms. I don't think he is very much of a partisan. I don't think he concerns himself all that much with politics itself. We see evidence in that in how some of these recent actions have rolled out. I know we'll get to those. But really, Prime Minister Carney is pragmatic. He's outcomes focused. All those measures that you laid out are really focused on productivity, on the economy, on enhancing competitiveness. He's laser focused on these issues that Canadians care the most about: rising cost of living, the economy, and so on. And it's clear that he doesn't really care all that much if it's blue, red, or orange. He wants to do what's best for Canada. He wants to strengthen our economic position. He wants to enhance affordability. And he's just driving very focused towards that goal.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Mr. Carney's coalition then. First of all, on Stephen Guilbeault leaving cabinet in protest over this Ottawa-Alberta Accord. How do you think Mark Carney really feels about that? Do you think he's sorry to lose someone like Mr. Guilbeault? What do you think, Kevin?
I think this is where the politics comes in, and I think this is where it gets interesting. So it's clear that, to me at least, that Prime Minister Carney advanced this MOU with a clear goal to unlock resources, enhance our productivity, get our natural resources to market. And it exposed a policy disagreement and a difference between him and Minister Guilbeault. I think the previous government was really focused on regulations and forcing some of these measures through. Carney sees it far differently. He wants to see market mechanisms doing a lot of the heavy lifting to enhance competitiveness and drive this idea of a low carbon economy, which is possible and a huge opportunity for Canada. where the politics come in is that Minister Guilbeault, former Minister Guilbeault, has a lot of sway in Quebec. I know that he will not be sorely missed back home in Calgary, but he definitely will be in the province of Quebec. He has a lot of sway. He's the Quebec lieutenant. He's a popular figure there. He represents the climate movement. And so I think will be somewhat eye-opening for the Carney administration that they need to take a few positive steps forwards on climate now to reassure that part of the base that this prime minister still cares about climate, still sees it as an opportunity for growth, and isn't abandoning that promise that he made in the election.
Okay. Matthew, what do you think on the departure of Mr. Guilbeault? How do you think the prime minister really feels about that? What kind of loss is that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I think I have to imagine that the prime minister is smart enough and enough of an adult to be able to accept diverging opinions around cabinet. I mean, he named Stephen Guilbeault to his cabinet and gave him not one but two roles, both on the heritage file and also as his Quebec lieutenant. So he clearly valued his input and wanted him at the table. At the same time, I think that, you know, there's many who say that the writing's been on the wall for a while, even before Mark Carney became prime minister, where there was a few red lines that Guilbeault had sort of outlined. You know, you look at the Atlantic carve-out on some of the carbon tax stuff before it was done away with entirely, where Guilbeault said he didn't want to see further carve-outs, and then the thing was gotten rid of. People wondered if he would stick around. So I think when you have that sort of precariousness, will he, won't he? I think in politics, you're always happy when that's no longer the case. That being said, I do think it provides a lot of political ammunition to the opponents of the Liberals, particularly on the progressive side. And of course, you know, in Quebec, as was mentioned, I don't know, you know, it's complicated in Quebec. I know there's a lot of people there who see him as a bit of a sellout from when he ran for the Liberals, especially following Justin Trudeau's purchase of a pipeline. You know, we can't forget that Guilbeault joined a government that had done that. But I think it does lead to some saying, hey, if he was willing to join Justin Trudeau and that wasn't good enough for us, and now he's leaving this guy's government, how bad is it? So a lot of questions that it will raise for a certain tranche of voters.
Yeah, I have a few more questions about this. When we come back, this is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Here with our Newsday panelists, Kevin Deagle and Matthew Dube. There is going to be, by the way, a cabinet shuffle today. And the Prime Minister will be at Rideau Hall for the swearing in. We know they have to cover off Stephen Guilbeault's portfolios, but we don't know how narrow or broad this cabinet shuffle will be. It is scheduled for 3 o'clock Eastern time. So something else in the mix today. Now, the Liberals in the last election performed well because they gained seats from the New Democrats in British Columbia and gained seats from the Bloc in Quebec in the last election. Given this Alberta-Ottawa deal, what does this mean for Mark Carney's governing coalition? Is this government at risk because of, say, unhappy BC or Quebec Liberal voters? What would you say, Matthew?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. I think BC is a little more complicated because, you know, the New Democrats, as much as there's seats like Victoria where it's a red-orange battle, there's a lot of interior seats where it's more of an orange-blue battle. So I think the politics of it are more complicated there, and it'll depend, you know, who the next leader of the NDP is and where that goes. But I definitely think it's a challenge for them in Quebec, undoubtedly. The Bloc did a lot better in the last election than people expected them to after Carney surged in the polls. And, you know, you're looking at a circumstance now where even though it's a bit all over the place provincially, you are looking at a circumstance where the PQ has been leading consistently in the polls. So there is sort of that disgruntled feeling that exists and sort of that anti-incumbent sentiment in Quebec. And so I expect that the Bloc will continue to make hay with this. Yves-François Blanchet, the leader, called out Stephen Guilbeault in the House of Commons early last week, basically calling him a sellout, to use that word I used again earlier, and then turned around the day of his resignation and talked about how much empathy he had for him and how much he appreciated his public service. So that's a deliberate choice, obviously. So there'll be challenges there. And the last thing I'll say is I think I wouldn't neglect what could happen in Ontario as well. I don't expect a big shift in Ontario, but you think of a lot of those, downtown Toronto seats, not to be overly stereotypical or cliched about it.
Sure.
Where
good point.
There are people who have feelings about these issues, right? And right now, the environment's on the back burner with the cost of living crisis. But all it takes is a big issue like this to put it back in a more prominent position. And it can definitely wreak havoc on the voter coalition of Mark Carney, as you pointed out.
Okay. Kevin, only have about a minute left there, so you'll get the last word today. Go ahead.
That's great. I'll try and be brief. I think it's just worth a bit of perspective. Back in the last election, this was a conversation between the cost of living crisis and the threat from Donald Trump. I don't think this issue is enough to supersede those two pressing issues that still remain. Carney was elected at a time when our country was under threat. We remain under threat from our closest ally, who is now a hostile neighbor trying to weaken Canada. So Carney was elected on this to resist this, to strengthen our domestic economy, to diversify trading partners. We need to do new things, and Carney's pushing that. So I think that will remain the key piece for voters and for caucus. They understand that we will have disagreements in policy, but those can be overcome because we have to remain focused on that bigger threat and that bigger issue, which is what's happening down the U.S.
Okay. Got to wrap it up there for today. Thank you very much. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin Deagle from Crestview, from Proof Strategies, Matthew Dube. Talkback is coming up right after the news on News Radio. Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic: elbows up. Elbows up. Elbows up. Your view of our political leaders and the Trump administration in the United States. Here are some questions that we have for you today to get the conversation going. What is your opinion of the Trump administration in the United States right now? When you think about Donald Trump in the United States, do you have your elbows up? Elbows up. Okay. What do you think of the ways some Canadian political leaders are dealing with Donald Trump and his government? Are they doing enough? Are they doing too much? Do they have their elbows up enough for your liking? Should their elbows be up at all? What would you say? What would you say? Personally speaking, do you have your elbows up? Are you doing anything, personally, because of the way you view Donald Trump and his government and his treatment of Canada? Are you elbows up in avoiding buying U.S. products, for example? Are you buying local, buying Canadian, buying products from other countries as long as they're not American products? Avoiding traveling to the United States? Are your elbows up? Elbows up, elbows up. When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what do you think? What do you think? Elbows up. When you hear that, what do you picture? What goes through your mind? Is that a phrase you wholeheartedly endorse and are actually backing up with actions? Or do you view it as, silly or a passing fad? Something you've never done. You've never had your elbows up. And do you think all of this elbows up has had any impact? When you think of the actions by our Canadian leaders, what they've said and done, or actions by Canadians to try and send a message to Donald Trump and his government, is any of it having any impact? Because when all of this started earlier this year, many, many, many months ago, almost a year ago now, when I asked you if you were going to boycott U.S. products or stop traveling to the United States, you said it was pointless because it would have no impact. What do you think now? All of these months later, what would you say? As we hit the final month of the year, it's been a year that's been dominated by this issue. Trump, the Trump administration, tariffs, counter tariffs, the 51st state, buy Canadian, boycott America. What do you think about Donald Trump and his government, the impact it's had on Canada? Are our leaders doing enough? Are you putting your elbows up? Are their elbows up enough? Should they have their elbows up? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. There are a few news stories about this topic today as we start a brand new week on Talkback. The Canadian press is running with a story with the headline, Price versus Patriotism, Holiday Season, a Test for Buy Canadian Sentiment. And here's a little bit from that story. As the tariff war drags on, quote, consumers are growing numb to U.S. President Donald Trump's tit for tat, and with the cost of living continuing to rise, some are willing to prioritize price and convenience over patriotism. The holiday season will test how much of a regression the Buy Canadian movement has seen as best intentions and budgets go head to head. Price over patriotism, elbows up, elbows up. Or does it depend on the price? Does elbows up depend on the price? That's one story that's in the news. Then there's what some premiers are doing with American alcoholic beverages at government-owned liquor stores. In Manitoba, the premier there, Wab Kinew, New Democrat, ordered all U.S. alcoholic beverages to be removed from store shelves many months ago. He said in recent days he has no plans to revisit the policy. He says it's a pain point for the Americans. It hurts the Americans. It's a way to send a message to the Americans that Canadians are not happy. And it's a way of putting pressure on them. And he claims it's getting the attention of people in the Trump administration. In Nova Scotia, Premier Tim Houston has said that whatever inventory of U.S. alcoholic beverages is in stock in Nova Scotia, it's going to be sold off, and those products won't be restocked. And all the proceeds from the sale of the American liquor will go to charity. Houston says the inventory is worth about $14 million, should net about $4 million for charity. The liquor's already been paid for, and there's no point in it going to waste. But they're not going to restock any American alcoholic beverages, at least for now, in Nova Scotia liquor stores. And in Ontario, the Doug Ford government has said in recent days that the government-owned liquor stores in Ontario have about $80 million worth of American products. It's all been pulled from the shelves. There are no plans to do what they're doing in Nova Scotia, but all of that American booze is just going to stay in storage till there's some kind of deal, I guess, between Canada and the United States. So at least when it comes to American alcoholic beverages, for some of our premiers, it's still very much elbows up. In the Toronto Sun today, there's a picture, and this was all over social media over the weekend, a picture of Wayne Gretzky out golfing with Donald Trump. When you see a picture like that, what do you think? A picture of Wayne Gretzky, a smiling Wayne Gretzky on the golf course with Donald Trump. Does that make you want to put your elbows up? A lot of elbows up related stories in the news, everything from our shopping plans to what our political leaders are doing. Wayne Gretzky's hanging out with Trump, and elbows up has been one of the biggest storylines of the year along with Trump. Let's talk about it today. You think it's having any impact? When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what do you think? Are your elbows up? Have you ever had your elbows up? 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make you a priority today. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, elbows up. Elbows up. Trump and elbows up. That's one of the biggest storylines in Canada this year. What is your opinion of the Trump administration in the United States right now? Are your elbows up? What do you think of how our political leaders are dealing in some ways with with Donald Trump and his government. We've got the alcoholic beverages angle that we can get into, but are they doing enough? Are they doing too much? Some premiers aren't really doing much at all when it comes to, say, retaliating against the American administration. Are you doing anything personally because of the Trump situation? Do you have your elbows up? When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what do you think? And do you think any of it's having any impact? 1-833-668-2577. Some lines available. Yeah, there's another picture of Wayne Gretzky out golfing with Donald Trump. And a few others, well-known professional golfer Brooks Koepka, anchor from Fox News, Brett Baer. The picture was posted on social media on Saturday, and they're all smiling there on the first tee. And there's Wayne Gretzky smiling as he stands right beside the U.S. president at Trump International Golf Club, West Palm Beach. And the news story in the Toronto Sun points out that, for a while, and you may have forgotten this, Trump was saying Gretzky should be the governor of the 51st state. You remember that? Gretzky should be the governor of the 51st state. A lot of Canadians, they're not happy to see a Canadian icon, a Canadian sports legend, one of the greatest Canadian hockey players ever, being so buddy-buddy with Donald Trump. Some people called him a traitor. Gretzky has said that hurts him. He's a proud Canadian. He's just a hockey player. But here we go again. Another picture of Wayne Gretzky out golfing with Donald Trump, surely not going to go over well with people. 1-833-668-2577 as we start another Talkback. Love to hear from you today. Eric is in Halifax. Hi, Eric.
Hey, good afternoon, Rob. Well,
yeah, good to hear from you.
You could put the elbows up till the cows come home because you're dealing with a hypocrite. And he's as cold as ice, and he's only got two things on his mind: ending the war in Ukraine and making us the 51st state. And as far as Wayne goes, Wayne should be ashamed of what he's doing. I mean, Canada put him on the face of the earth, but as far as the hockey goes, and he should shake his head and. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, as far as Carney goes, he's a lone ball player in a baseball game. I mean, the other guys are not doing nothing to help him out. He seems, and Ford seems to be giving him a hand, but I think it's just a waste of time, and that man will never give in until he gets the two things that he wants the most. Okay. So you're disappointed in Wayne Gretzky, right? You're very disappointed. Sure,
in Wayne Gretzky.
My God Almighty.
Okay.
Edmonton put him in on the what as far as Canadians go. I mean, they gave him the red carpet, and look what he's doing. I mean, he says that he's a true Canadian, but he can't be a true Canadian if he's right beside.
If he's buddy with Trump.
During the clubs for Trump.
Okay. Now, your premier in Nova Scotia says we're going to sell off all the inventory that we have of U.S. alcohol. We'll give whatever profit we make, we'll give it to charity. What do you think about that?
That's a good thing because the food banks need a lot of help. I mean, everybody and anybody's going to the food banks, and if what's the name?
True enough.
The guy from Pictou, if he could do anything to help them, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah,
and as
Tim
far
Houston.
as me buying American stuff, I was in a store the other day and I was looking at some meats, and I looked at where it was made and I put it back again.
Because it was American made? It was American made? It was. Yep. Okay. All right. Interesting, Eric. Thank you. It sounds like you've got your elbows up. Okay, let's go to Greg, I believe, is up next. Greg's in Calgary. Hi, Greg.
Let's go elbows down.
Elbows down.
I appreciate the passion of the last caller. I have to understand that we're being hurt now. We haven't even seen to start the pain. Rob, you probably know the percentage of exports going through under NAFTA. Something like 90% is not being tariffed today, yet we're feeling pain. In my opinion, Canada best get ready. Tariffs are policy. He could change his mind, but I don't think this has been his policy for the last 18 months. High tariffs. We're not going to be able to invest and move our production facilities to the U.S. I can see NAFTA actually going away and having 100% of our goods to the States being tariffed. And if that happens, we're going to be in a world of pain. So we best prepare for it. And right now, the best preparation is disengage from conversations and get ready to negotiate NAFTA and be prepared for it to fail. And,
so when you hear this, elbows up, we have to have our elbows up. What do you think? No? Retaliate?
Not right now. I think that would just irritate Trump and give him more reasons to take unilateral action against Canada right now. Just stay the course and get ready for a tough NAFTA renegotiation and get prepared. I think the biggest thing we can do is start to regrow entrepreneurship in this country so we can start to produce stuff in Canada, food, clothing, shelter, whatever, and then we can start buying stuff in Canada and get less stuff from China and less stuff from the United States and become more self-sufficient and hang on to our cash.
Okay, thank you. 1-833-668-2577, off and running today on the Monday Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right back to our phone lines. Elbows up, dealing with Donald Trump and his actions toward Canada. Matthew in Calgary. Hello, Matthew.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, Matthew. Thank you. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be objective as best as I can. At the end of the day, United States needs to be, quite a big ally for us. And being from Alberta, obviously landlocked, we need to have a good relationship with Trump. So, I don't know. I try to be indifferent, but at the same time, I have an opinion. So I'm kind of a Trump supporter in a sense, but I don't like to label myself fully, but I don't think we need to be too cautious. I think we're going a bit too crazy with some of what business owners are doing. As one myself, especially in the restaurant business, we've been impacted quite a lot. But I don't know. I think people are taking it a bit too serious.
Okay, so when you hear this phrase elbows up, whether that's what politicians are doing or what people are doing, by not traveling to the United States or in the shopping choices that they make, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, we live in a free commerce society. I think at the end of the day, people shouldn't be judged for still supporting American businesses. I'm in the restaurant business, and we did the whole boycott of American wines, and I'll tell you from a guest perspective, a lot of them were quite upset because, unfortunately, some American wines are just better than Canadian-based, right? So I think people should just be allowed to do as they please, and even those that are upset with Wayne Gretzky, golfing with Trump, at the end of the day, yes, he's Canadian, but he's surely representing us well. It's not like they're scheming up to something secretive, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, he's not the governor of the 51st state just yet. Okay, Matthew, thank you for your call. Let's go to Dartmouth. Rick is in Dartmouth. Hi, Rick. Hi, Rick.
Hi. How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Rick. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Yeah. No, I think that 12 years of liberal mismanagement in this country has left us in a vulnerable position. That's what I believe. And Donald Trump is doing what he has to do for his country. They're 37 trillion in debt through taking care of NATO for us and everybody else. And it's time for them to get their money back. It's unfortunate that it hurts us, but like I say, we should have been in a better position, with oil flowing and our dollar in a better position and industry and get rid of the anti-carbon stuff. And maybe we'd have been in a way better position than we are today.
Right. So you think a lot of whatever issues are in Canada there are mostly Canadian-made issues. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. It's I akin it to this. I akin it to rubbing your butt with sandpaper and wondering why it never heals. That's why we keep electing a liberal government in this country, and we see what happens to us.
All right. Well, thank you for that visual. But what do you think about what your premier is doing, Tim Houston, where you sell all the American booze from the United States? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's
what is it called? The Nova Scotia Liquor Commission, and give the proceeds to charity. Done with the American booze.
Yeah, that's honorable, but I think they should have never ever taken it off the shelf. They should have just kept it there till it's sold out and not reorder any. So, Tim Houston's done a lot of good for this province. So I'm not going to really bite him on selling the booze and donating it to charity. Like I say, that's an honorable position.
Okay, thank you. It's Talkback on a Monday, Elbows Up edition. This is News Radio. Where are your elbows? Are your elbows up when you think of the Trump administration and his treatment of Canada? What do you think of how our political leaders are dealing with Trump and tariffs? Should their elbows be up? Should they be down, up higher, down lower? When you hear that phrase, elbows up, just what goes through your mind? Do you think it's having an impact? 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Dave in Halifax. Hello, Dave.
Yes, hello. Rob, you got me?
Yes, I have you loud and clear. Dave, go ahead.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm looking around at Costco, Walmart. These are American companies, big American companies. Starbucks, you've got McDonald's, and if you want to get in the entertainment buck, you've got Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon. We're all on that stuff. It's all American, and we all may have portfolios, stocks, investments. I know I do. And I hope they do well. And I think we're a little hypocritical when it comes to elbows up. I know some people won't buy U.S. blueberries or whatever. But really, we're spending our money in American companies here, big time. And like I said, there's no getting around that. Mark Carney got elected on his elbows up. When I'm thinking it's like feeble. It's absolutely feeble. I haven't seen any changes in our country here at the moment. I know he's been abroad a lot seeking investment, but I think we're losing more investment than we're gaining. And I don't have the facts on that, but I haven't heard anything opening up that's a large, plant or whatever. So as far as the elbows up goes, I think it's a little feeble. And I think Canadians are very hypocritical. And I'll tell you one thing, Rob, we're seeing 30% increase over our water over the next 2 or 3 years here in Halifax. We're seeing power rates are going to go up. Of course, like everything, we are a growing city. We kind of understand that. Our property tax, that's been a big thing here that's going to hit us all hard. And once these things go up around you, so do the rents, because the landlords are going to have to raise their rates when it comes to their rates going up, what have you. So it's actually inside. We can't blame Trump on that stuff. And I think one of your previous callers, the last 10 years of erosion in this country, and I think a lot of, especially, I'm thinking baby boomers, the older people, I guess, were a little hesitant to want change. And a lot of people just don't want change. So they stuck with the Liberals. And quite frankly, I'm very disappointed myself in what I've seen so far. Certainly didn't get my vote. And I'm open to change. And I think change is good. And I think we need change. But here we are, Rob, and I think elbows up.
Well, Dave, let me ask you, I have the statement here from Premier Houston's office recently. The province of Nova Scotia will sell its remaining alcohol from the United States with the net profit going to Feed Nova Scotia and other community food organizations. We remain committed to a Team Canada approach to tariffs and trade. We will not be ordering any more from the United States until this inventory is gone, said Premier Tim Houston. What do you think of that?
Well, that inventory sat on in a warehouse somewhere for weeks, right? Collecting dust that was probably paid for and paid with interest rates. Nobody goes out and buys 15, and probably taxpayers, I would say, $15 million of booze got yarded off the shelves, right? And it collected dust, and now they're giving $4 million away, and that's mighty fine. And I'd like to see some transparency with that, quite honest with you, because $4 million going to, Feed Nova Scotia. Where else is it going to go? A lot of it's administration and stuff like that. And I hope it does end up with Feed Nova Scotia. But again, another pathetic, in my view, of fighting this Trump. And don't forget, China also hit us hard with tariffs, folks, on canola and also our seafood. big time.
That's right.
And yet we don't talk about that much, do we? So
no,
that's
we
my
don't.
point.
Okay.
Rob.
Yep. Good point, Dave. Thank you. Let's go to Rick is in Dartmouth today. Hi, Rick.
Hey, great call, Dave. Look, during the election, I fought just, like a normal person would do on their Facebook page against the absurdity of the elbows up idea. And by analogy, I would say this. I played, major junior hockey when I was, 18. And I don't know if you remember the Cape Breton Metros. You might have been gone from Cape Breton by then. But they had a player. His name was Art Billard. Art, wherever you are, I don't know. But Art was 6'5", about 235 pounds. And the last thing you want to do, well, for two reasons. One is try to elbow Art, because I was only 5'6", I couldn't reach him, or do any kind of dirty tricks to Art, because he was so big and strong. Well, the analogy I would make is that's the same idea with the United States. You don't go chopping at their ankles or elbows up. And I argue with people vehemently that the elbows up was not, or was a liberal slogan. It was not a general slogan. And somebody in Ottawa actually came down here and put on a big rally, elbows up, during the election campaign. And they spent probably $20,000-$30,000 on this rally, and I know that from knowing the people that ran the venue that they rented. They got a deal on it, but they didn't get that much of a deal. And I asked them where this money came from, and they couldn't tell me. So anyway, the idea of elbows up against Trump was just a ploy because so many people dislike or even hate Donald Trump, okay? I'm not one of those people. I look at it more from an academic point of view. He's a different animal, that's for sure. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he does, but I cannot blame him for our basically. It's almost 100% inflation. If you just go back 3 years in the grocery store, the stuff that I bought for $4 in 2021 is now $8. And when they give the inflation rate per month, it's 0.1%, 0.5%. But when you look at it over time, and your greatest guest of all, Ian Lee, pointed that out in advance, that this is what was going to happen because of the ridiculous policies of a liberal government.
Right. A liberal slogan and nothing more. According to Rick in Dartmouth, elbows up. More of your calls just ahead on the Monday Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So one of the things that we're hoping to get a better understanding of today is just how prevalent or intense is this sentiment of elbows up, since it's been really one of the defining narratives of the year, and how Canadians feel about the United States and how our leaders are dealing with Trump in the White House. 1-833-668-2577. Ken is in Cochrane. Up next. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Rob. First of all, with respect to Wayne Gretzky, I think he's an ambassador, and I think the closeness that he has with Trump, I actually think that's a good thing for Canadians, because I can't imagine that during any of their conversations that Gretzky is throwing Canada under the bus as far as Trump is concerned. I'll bet you he's if he's doing anything at all, if the subject even does come up, he's certainly acting as an advocate for Canada. So there is that, and I think that keeping the lines of communication open, I think benefit Canada. It doesn't matter who it is, and Danielle Smith exemplified that. Ford, his attempt at elbows up Yeah, he did get his point across, but he was forced to retrench and pull in his horns a little bit. And there are some that would say that he did that at the completely wrong time, that was on the precipice of a deal as far as aluminum and steel was concerned, and he was the spoiler in that particular initiative. I'm a conservative, and I do not support the Liberals at all. I think they're the reason that we're in this mess in the first place, because we've depended on the U.S. But we depend on the U.S. because of geography, and that's a reality that is. I mean, it's just the way it is, and we will continue to rely on them. If you were to just build on something that Dave was saying earlier, if you were to take everything that's American away, if you could do that magically, our country would look radically different, and we would have a radically different standard of living. So, settle down, people. We do need the U.S., and I think we need to keep talking. And there may be a time when we need to have elbows up, but right now it's false bravado, and it's stupid.
False bravado and stupid. Okay, thank you for your call. Let's go to Drumheller. Thomas in Drumheller. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, how are you, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Thomas. Thanks. What's your opinion today? Yeah, I hear you just fine, Thomas. Go ahead.
Well, personally, I think you should have just ignored Donald Trump to begin with, totally, and just carried on. You got to negotiate with him, there's no doubt about it. But by the same token, diversification of our economy is a really good idea. It's nice to have some backups off the continent. As far as me going south, no, I won't be going south. It has nothing to do with tariffs and a whole bunch to do with what they've done at the border. I mean, yes, they're suffering down there, and the right people are suffering. The same people that decided to vote for Donald Trump because he wouldn't vote for a black woman. So now we got what we got. That's that simple, and I think we just have to learn to deal with it, Rob.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm a little unclear. Why aren't you going to the United States?
Well, I won't go down because now if you go for any extent now, anything over 30 days, you'll be fingerprinted, face recognition, and as well, you need a long-term visa now, which is going to cost you money.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
You know, you got a lot
but you
of
think we should just
selling off the American products.
Okay. Just ignore the man, though, you're saying. Just ignore the man.
Absolutely. You're just giving him all the ammunition he needs. Just let him sit there and blah, blah, blah. And sooner or later, the man's going to be gone. The midterms are coming up. He doesn't look good. I don't even think he's going to win Tennessee tomorrow. So that's iffy. That's best. So you never know.
Never know. Okay.
Right?
Okay. Just got to wait him out. Wait him out, you're saying.
You got to wait him out. We've had this before. It's not new. It's politics.
Okay. What do you think, just generally, you hear elbows up? What do you think? Elbows up.
That's a farce. It's a farce. I think you can do your part by just buying Canadian, support Canadian, and where you can, you should, but you can't always do that. It's not feasible. But the one thing it does is it encourages Canadians to open their own businesses and try and compete. The problem with buying American or making everything in America, the cost of it will severely rise because they make too much money. They cannot compete with China, who has gone to robots and stuff. As far as our tariffs on our canola and that, it's a retaliation for us putting tariffs on their electric vehicles. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Be right back. Elbows up. This is 1-833-668-2577. Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Trump and elbows up has been one of the biggest storylines for Canada for all of 2025. What do you think about how some of our political leaders are dealing with Donald Trump? Are their elbows up enough? Are they up too much? When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what do you think? Are you doing anything personally that would be elbows up? Shopping, traveling, and the like. 1-833-668-2577. Mike is in Kincardine. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Rob. I think a lot of Canadians did put their elbows up by boycotting products, not traveling to the USA. However, our politicians did not follow up. They were bottoms up. I think Doug Ford chickened out when he imposed his electricity tariff, and they backed off, and they had the steel aluminum tariffs at 25%. A couple months later, Donald Trump imposed 50% tariffs on us. So I don't believe, in many respects, that we have been tough enough with them. I think that you can't back down from a bully, because he'll just keep bullying you until he gets his way. And I'm really disappointed in Mr. Carney, and I believe Mr. Trudeau has left us with such high deficits that we can't fight or maneuver that much because of the deficits he's left us in. When you're paying 40% of your taxes on the interest rate of the debt at the federal level, you have no room to maneuver, Rob. That's my thoughts.
Okay, but you would like politicians to be even tougher with the Americans. Is that right?
Yeah. I keep hearing all this crying about the canola and stuff like that. Well, it was not only in response to the EV tariffs and stuff. It was in response to the two Michaels when the Chinese grabbed two of our citizens. You know what I mean? I understand. I think this is a fault of our own Canadian government and our own Canadian businesses. They're too reliant on one trading partner. We should have been diversified a long time ago. And I go all the way back to Brian Mulrooney, Rob, and I said, when you have a north-south relationship and you don't trade with anyone else, you get what you get.
Okay, so you think on the trade file in many ways we're playing catch-up and we're victims of some of the own decisions that we've made. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But I find that interesting that you think that there should be more retaliation, because a lot of the callers are saying it's not having much of an impact so far. But you would like our Canadian leaders to be tougher.
I'm also glad that we saw Guilbeault's backside go, because that bugger...
yeah. Well, you're not alone there.
Caused a lot of problems, and we and our industry suffered because of it, because they're not competitive anymore. So I was very happy to see his backside go last week. Anyways, that's my
conversation for another day. Thank you, though. Thank you. Yep, very good first hour. Very busy on this topic. Elbows up, Trump and elbows up. 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is coming up next, and then more of your calls on Talkback in hour number 2 here on News Radio. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback on a Monday. We're talking about elbows up, because Trump, his treatment of Canada, and elbows up has been one of the biggest stories in Canada in 2025. When you think about the Trump administration, Donald Trump's treatment of Canada, do you want to put your elbows up? What do you think about how our political leaders are dealing with Trump and his government these days? Are their elbows up enough? Are they up too much? Are you doing anything personally because of Trump? Are your elbows up in the way you shop or travel? Do you think any of it is having any impact? When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what goes through your mind? 1-833-668-2577 as we start hour number 2 of Talkback with Pat in Kitchener. Hi, Pat.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, Pat. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Good. My opinion is that elbows up was really never meant to be an economic strategy. It was always a political slogan that really was designed to win votes, and Canadians that thought it was an economic strategy are simply wrong. Elbows up, it won't build sustainable economies. Elbows up won't create jobs. It doesn't attract investments. It doesn't strengthen trade relationships. In my view, the reality that we're faced with today is the direct result of decisions made by Canadian policymakers that were elected by Canadians. Like, these choices reflect the priorities that the Canadian people voted for. Canadians chose policies that were aimed at reducing, first and foremost, climate change, and then secondly, increasing diversity across Canada. And those goals have really shaped the current landscape that we operate in today. It's not accidental, in my view. It's really the outcome of our democratic choices. And now we're vulnerable because our policy decisions failed to account for, one, competitiveness, and two, growth. And that is the bottom line. Canadians voted for, let's say, leftist-leaning parties, and we need to look ourselves in the mirror and deal with this. We sell 75% of our products and services to the U.S. They buy 2% from us. Our elbows can never be up enough to inflict a minute amount of damage to the U.S. economy and consumer. It's a foolish strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a caller in the previous hour thought that our Canadian leaders weren't being tough enough, that he would like to see, say, more retaliation, tougher measures against the Americans. What do you think about that?
It's like when I hear stuff like that, I think of Ukraine and Russia. It's like Ukraine is a minnow, Russia is the shark. First and foremost, without the help of the U.S. and the EU, Ukraine would have been absorbed and swallowed up by Russia. We have to realize our place in the world as Canadians. We have to realize it. Okay. We're neighbors to the greatest superpower, militarily and economically, the world has ever seen. You don't have the, let's say, the ability, leverage. You just don't have the leverage to inflict any damage that will make the Americans, change their policy decisions towards you. You have to take the Apple approach. You have to take the Apple approach. You have to give Donald Trump a big bottle of gold maple syrup and have him put it on his Resolute desk and, shake hands and say that Canada wants to be the greatest partner the U.S. has on this planet. And that's the approach you have to take for the next 4 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There's a slogan to get votes and no replacement for an economic strategy, says Pat in Kitchener, on to elbows up. Let's go to Linda in southern Alberta. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. What do you think?
Hi. Well, I think like it is, elbows up was a Liberal slogan. It was just for politicians to gain their votes. And I don't like it when you say all Canadians, because we're basically Liberal dominated in the East and BC. I think there's like 8 provinces that were blue. So I'm not, and when it comes to being able to stand up to the economy and stuff, we lost that ability in the 70s when we first got on to NAFTA. Because our dollar was strong then. We had industry here all over the place. We have no industry here now, and our dollar is 71 cents. And I remember when, and I remember when Carney was the head of the Bank of Canada. and they wanted to drop the rates, and he said no. And we said, well, the dollar's low. And he said, well, that's good for investors, but not Canadians, foreign investors.
Okay, I don't recall that, but I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, and so then to me, it's like they want to keep our dollar down, but we've had foreign investors in Alberta for years, and when things go bust, they leave, and then here we sit with nothing. So no, I don't agree with that. And also when it comes to Wayne Gretzky, well, my favorite Canadian ambassador would have been Lanny McDonald. So
okay.
As far as that goes, because
well, what if Lanny McDonald was seen getting a pic? What if it was Lanny McDonald getting a picture with Donald Trump? What would you think of Lanny McDonald?
He would have, because Lanny McDonald lives here in Canada. He retired here in Canada. He plays golf here in Canada, support hockey programs for kids, and he is somebody that has gone out and stopped and helped somebody in the wintertime change a tire. I don't think I'd ever see Wayne Gretzky do something like that. To me, he would be a good representative for Canada. In my opinion, anyway.
All right. Are you disappointed that Wayne Gretzky would get a picture with Donald Trump?
No, I've kind of lost interest in Wayne Gretzky when he went down to LA Kings when he left.
Okay.
Oilers.
Well, it was a long time ago.
He went, and he went Canadian American, and I haven't supported Americans since NAFTA. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. But elbows up was a slogan, a vote-getting slogan by the Liberals. Maybe. Okay. Popular opinion so far here in hour number 2 of Talkback. What do you think? Elbows up. Elbows up. Are your elbows up? What about our political leaders? Should their elbows be up? Are they up too much? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577 on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, we've been talking about elbows up. I mean, you could say elbows up. I mean, it reshaped our politics this year. And again, we're trying to get a better understanding today of how intense the sentiment is these days for you personally and what you're hearing from, say, some of your political leaders. 1-833-668-2577. Verasco in Calgary today. Hi, Verasco.
Hi, it's Vasco. V-A-S-K-O. I want
Good to hear from you.
Elbow up or down. I think our elbows are behind ourselves because nobody knows how to play with Mr. Trump. He lowered the taxes, tariffs, all that thing. They should have, Mr. Trudeau and Carney, they should have there and lower the tax for the businesses, tax for the people, because we have a way more things to deal with. And you don't have choice. Build a gas plant for Canadian businesses. Build home energies and stuff like that better. And just follow the expressions of Mr. Trump.
Okay, so you think to better, say, protect Canada from whatever Trump is doing, we should lower taxes here, lower taxes for businesses, lower taxes for individuals, and just get on with building things in Canada. Is that what you're saying?
Bring the industry in Canada, and we, the Canadians, can pull it off. Simple thing. I will never go to the States because our dollar is way down. And why is down? Because we give the stuff away, and they make a big bucks on our stuff going down, and we have to buy all the gas and all the things from the States, at a very expensive price. So the thing is, you have to fix our home problems here first before you go fight with somebody else.
I see.
The industry is the number one, and the taxes and all that thing is number two. And just go and play his game. Simple.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, apparently not so simple. Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, what do you think, though, about, say, what some of the premiers are doing? For example, they're saying, well, we're not going to stock. Some of them are saying this, not all of them, but some of them say, well, we're not going to sell American liquor in our liquor stores anymore. What do you think about an idea like that? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's one of the stories that's in the news today. You've got Tim Houston, the premier of Nova Scotia, saying we're going to pull all the American liquor out of storage that we pulled off the shelves, back in the spring. We'll put it back on the shelves. We'll sell it, whatever we net from it. They think about $4 million a year. They'll give that to charity, primarily charities that deal with food insecurity in that province. You've got the Manitoba premier saying he has no plans to restock anytime soon any of the American liquor at the liquor stores in that province. You've got Doug Ford, his Minister of Finance, Bethlen Falvey, in a media interview in recent days, said we've got $80 million worth of American liquor in the stores, and we have no plans anytime soon to put it back on the shelves. We're not going to do anything with that American liquor. It's off the shelves for the foreseeable future. And this is their way of, being on Team Canada and showing that they have their elbows up. But is that enough? Is it too much? Is it silly? Should they be doing that at all? Not all the premiers are. They're not doing that in Saskatchewan. They're not doing that in the province of Alberta, but that's just one example. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
1-833-668-2577. I mean, tough news out of the Soo today that is directly related to tariffs. Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario is home to Algoma Steel. And today the company announced 1,000 layoffs. I mean, it's more than 1 in 3 workers at the steel mill in Sault Ste. Marie. 2,800 people working there. 1,000 of them are going to be unemployed. Like, it's 3.5 weeks until Christmas. They're not going to be laid off before Christmas, but they are going to be laid off 16 weeks from now. March 23rd of 2026. 1,000 workers will be out of a job at a steel mill in Ontario. A steel mill that the Carney government gave $400 million in loan assistance to help it deal with the impact of tariffs. It was called the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Program. It was $400 million from the federal government and the province of Ontario, $100 million. And yet still 1,000 layoff notices went out today from a steel mill in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. That's another reason why we want to talk about this. Elbows up, elbows up. I mean, it's been one of the defining issues of the year. And how you feel about the news that you're hearing and what this is doing to Canada with Trump's tariffs and just everything that he has said over the course of, more than a year now about Canada. The American president that signed the last free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico and then called it a great deal. And now, well, he's really not living up to the agreement. And he's imposed tariffs on all kinds of Canadian industries, from the auto industry, which he says Canadians will just have to get used to not having an auto industry, that it's going to the United States. The steel industry, Algoma today. The aluminum industry is in no better shape. Tariffs on lumber, tariffs on potash, tariffs only 10%, but there's still tariffs on Canadian energy. It's actually quite remarkable that our economy is doing as well as it is. But it's not just the tariffs, it's all the other things. It's the American president suggesting the border between Canada and the United States is just some imaginary line. Just an imaginary line drawn with a pencil all those years ago. What if we just, took the eraser and got rid of that line? And all that talk about wanting to make Canada the 51st state and touting all the benefits that he thought Canadians would enjoy. If we were American, we wouldn't have tariffs. We'd be protected by the greatest military in the world. He claimed we'd have better health care. We'd have lower taxes. And I don't know, I guess maybe if he meant it, he was kind of like making us an offer that we couldn't refuse and that we would embrace the idea. Was it all just a joke? I don't know. Was he trolling Canada? I don't know. It's pretty clear he had no love for Justin Trudeau when he kept calling him the governor of the 51st state. If there has been some advancement, it's that he doesn't say those kinds of things to Carney, but now the two aren't talking at all. When they were talking, Donald Trump actually said nice things about Mark Carney and vice versa. But as the year winds down, it doesn't appear as though there's much happening on the Canada-U.S. file. There was a news report last week that suggested Carney might be going back to the White House for another visit, but there's nothing in the news today about that. And it seems as though, just given the remarks from the U.S. ambassador to Canada in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago, that the White House still hasn't forgiven the Ontario government, Doug Ford's government, for running that Ronald Reagan anti-tariff television commercial during those first two games of the World Series. And when the Prime Minister was asked, when was the last time you spoke with Donald Trump, he said, who cares? He'll speak when he's ready to speak. It's kind of where things are with the Canada-U.S. relationship right now. Elbows up? Should they be up? Are they up too high? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. Every single phone line available right now. Wait won't be too long at all. Call us and take part in the discussion on Talkback on News Radio. When you hear that phrase, elbows up, what do you think? What do you think? Given the impact of Trump on Canada this year, elbows up, what do you think? What about our political leaders? Are they doing enough to deal with Donald Trump? Are their elbows up enough? Are they up too much? Is any of this having any kind of impact? That's a big question. 1-833-668-2577. And have your say on Talkback today. Let's go to Jonathan up next. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Rob. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi, Jonathan.
Thank you for taking my call.
You. You're welcome.
Yeah. I have two things here in what I have in mind.
Okay.
First, the trade orders, and then the second is the elbows up. Okay, yes. I will begin with the trade. WTO is dead.
WTO is dead. Okay.
Yes, because basically what's the behavior of the U.S. towards it. WTO brought prosperity all over the world, which is with the leadership of U.S., but now it's gone. We are heading to a different order right now, and this is a very huge unpredictability in the world. Before, I don't really mind what the Prime Minister is saying about rapture and everything, but when I came across with the speeches of the different leaders in the world, especially the Prime Minister in Singapore, I think right now the Prime Minister is doing the best he can, and I think he fully understands what we are heading. And this is the reality now. And some noise that I heard here in the U.S., I think there's a chance that we are heading to 1929. And if we go back to the history, that leads to the World War II, plus the other factors. But that's what leads to, it brings chaos, right? But right now, WTO is dead. There's very huge unpredictability. And countries all over the world.
Unpredictability, uncertainty, more protectionism, okay, those kinds of things, okay? And maybe economic shocks because of that. I'm with you so far. So on elbows up and that whole thing.
Elbows up. We need to move on that one. We need to change that into working elbows, because we need to work hard in our part as a country to prepare to the near future, the incoming unpredictability or shock waves, or it's gonna affect us, all of us. So we should do our best. We should work together, focus on the things that in front of us very soon, and we should think of ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not just elbows up, but get our backs into it and get our dirt under the fingernails and get to work here, is what you're saying. Preparing for this economic uncertainty, the economic shocks that could come ahead. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. We need to roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and we should work hard.
All right. Okay. Very good. Jonathan, thank you for sharing your opinion today. 1-833-668-2577. 3-4 lines available there for you. And you can have your say on Talkback. Brad is up next. Brad's in Calgary as well. Hi, Brad.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Brad. Thank you.
Good.
What's your opinion here?
I guess I'm a proud Canadian here, born and raised here in Alberta as well, too. Proud to say that I've got, a young family, 2 kids, all the rest of that stuff. And it's kind of interesting on the elbows off topic. Like, the way how I kind of looked at it is, and there I'm looking at it and saying it means to be stand strong, be determined, and be ready to defend yourself. I've always long kind of viewed Donald Trump as being a bit of a bully. He's always kind of had someone that's had a lot of money. He was gifted a lot of money as he was a kid, and he's used to having things his way. So when he took power, when he was elected there a while back ago, the very first thing that he commented on was he was unhappy with the trade balance between Canada and the United States, just saying, and I think he quoted by saying that they're basically subsidizing us as well, too. But the reality is, and just being a proud Canadian that I am, I do think that the States is kind of overreaching, and they're trying to get a, kind of quote unquote better deal for them. But I think that Canada should be proud of everything that we do, that we provide for them as well, too. There's a reason why the United States only charges 10% tariffs. I believe it's 10% on our oil and gas, because they absolutely need it. So I don't know why, we have to take a step back and kind of say, well, we need to bend the knee to the United States. And, I understand the point that they are our largest buyer of oil and gas products, but why can't we be proud of what we're doing and just kind of flip the stance and say, well, hang on a second, you can't be what you are without our products as well, too. So, I hate.
But if that's the message, if that's the message that you want to send, if that's the message that you think political leaders should be sending, what do you think of the response so far to everything that's happened this year?
I don't know. I think the political response is just, the government's way of just kind of attempting to kind of say, listen, we're not going to be pushed around, and we're going to make these small measures to kind of make our voice known, that we're not going to, I guess kind of quote unquote just accept the norm, and that we're going to stand up for ourselves. And I've been in a lot of group conversations with other friends, and they've kind of all thought that this, for as much hardships, and I feel for those that are potentially going to lose their jobs, like you were mentioning about that one steel mill closing there, or 1,000 workers losing them, like it sucked in that scenario, all because somebody in the States decided that they were unhappy with the trade deficit that they're running, and he's basically trying to promote a lot of U.S. grown products as well, too. So I think we continue to fight for our products.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Great to hear your call today on Talkback. Lots of time to fit you in as well. 2-3 lines available there. 1-833-668-2577. The Elbows Up edition of Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We wanted to ask you about Elbows Up today because when we look back at the year 2025, Trump, his views about Canada, his actions that directly impacted Canada, and they did. I mean, that was one of the top issues in this country this year, if not the issue. You know, probably the defining issue. No question, it played a huge role in our politics here this year. Just look at the way the election turned out. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Al. Is in Calgary. Hi, Al.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, very good, Al. Thanks for calling. What's your opinion here?
Okay, I'm going to get off the track a little bit. The news story you just talked about was Algoma laying off 1,000 people.
Yes.
The announcement from last Thursday about the pipeline. Number one, if they ever got the natives up in northern British Columbia to approve of the oil tankers coming in that rocky shore, which they never will, they could add $5 billion to the price of the pipeline and put a loading platform a half a mile out. That, you know, the Indians would go for that, and the tankers never have to come near the rocks. Okay, back to the other thing is, why is Algoma not pouring billets right now to put a pipeline to triple the Trans Mountain, get the guarantees for the natives, get the guarantees for Alberta, British Columbia, who will back it, and it'll pay to triple Trans Mountain, and you could have shovels in the ground by March. You'd have your Algoma ship the billets over to Selco, have them roll the steel, you ship it to IPSCO and have them put the pipe together, and you're ready to go within 3 months instead of fighting for 5 years. It just makes no sense to me.
Okay. So this is a way you're thinking here to create more economic resilience in this country, to build Canada, right? Yeah, build Canada.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
all right, fair enough.
We got a situation where India needs the oil, China needs the oil, and away we go. And okay, you want to. The Americans want the oil, but they want it for $10-12 less. Well, let's just put the money into the pipeline and ship it to the people that really want it and are willing to pay the world price for it.
All right. Thank you, Al. Yep. Very good. Omar is in Ottawa. Let's go to Omar. Hi, Omar.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Omar. Yep. Thanks for calling today. What's your opinion?
Nope. Well, my opinion is, so the whole elbows up thing, let's be honest, we all know that was a gimmick. And that's fine. That's fine. Like, everyone has an election gimmick. That's fine. What I really want to talk about is dealing with Trump as Canadians. And I'm kind of shocked no one's mentioned it before, but we're dealing with a literal criminal. I mean, the Americans elected to vote a guy who had 34 felony convictions. The guy doesn't keep his word. He signed a new Kuzma with him in 2018. He didn't like that deal, so he made some BS about drugs come through Canada into the U.S., so he hit us with these tariffs. You can't negotiate with someone like that. You just can't. And I think Carney, he's going about it the right way. He's the right person for the job between the two, which the other guy is Poilievre. He knows how to deal with Trump. He knows that you can't talk to the guy. There's no point running after the Americans, calling them. You got to treat him like a petulant toddler and wait till he's over his tantrum to deal with him. He's a criminal. And honestly, another thing is, this guy, he's openly committed crimes. Rob, you know that he's manipulated the stock market and then openly bragged about his friends making billions of dollars.
I don't know about that.
He did. He would say something and the stock market would crash, and the next day he would reverse it and the stock market would go back up. And obviously, who's buying those stocks?
Well, you think that's market manipulation. You think that's market manipulation, but there was a term for that this year for stock market people. Trump always chickens out. Trump always chickens out.
Right. But in reality, Trump is a very powerful person. His words matter. He knows that he can say something to make stock market. Yeah, exactly. So And the other thing is, which other president have you known that's marketed their own cryptocurrency coin from the office? Like he's a criminal in every sense of the word.
Okay.
And it's hard to deal with something like that. And Carney, he's got his work cut out for him. He's reversing all the policies. Well, he's starting to reverse all the policies of Trudeau. Trudeau was horrible. We can all admit that he was horrible for Canada.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Carney, he's one of the most like center-right prime ministers we've had in the Liberals in a long time. Like he's the person who's best for the job in my opinion right now. And
so let me ask you this. You said, just because we're a little tight on time, you said at the beginning elbows up was like a slogan or a gimmick for the election. Do you think it's over now, elbows up, as it's like a passing fad? It's passed already? Is that what you think?
It has passed, and like one of your other callers said, we don't have the economic might to make any damage on the United States. We just don't.
Okay.
We have to do it through negotiation, and they have a madman in the Oval Office, so that's going to be hard. So we just,
all right.
Elbows up was a gimmick. They won the election. Let's move on.
Gotcha. Thank you, Omar, for your call. Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we've been talking about elbows up today. Trump and elbows up. One of the biggest stories of the year, right? 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Al in Calgary today. Hi, Al.
Oh, hi, Rob. Great show.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
You want a quick fix overnight?
Yes. Okay.
In the interest of Carney, all Trump has to do is to promise that he won't touch the airlines, Canadian big banks, the dairy cartel in Quebec, and telecom. He'll leave those alone. He'll drop the tariffs.
Right.
On products coming from Canada to the U.S., and he'll make it up by finishing XL Pipeline. The differential alone, if somebody did the math, it's millions, and it's been like that for 50 years now.
Okay.
The problem from Smith will be on board with that. She'd sooner have a pipeline yesterday than in 2040. We don't have to worry about the natives in BC. We don't have to worry about LB. And we don't have to worry about the tanker ban anymore.
Right. Okay.
She's going to be fine with that.
Yeah, but you're still in the same predicament. You're still sending your most, by far your most valuable commodity. You're still shipping 93% of it to the United States. What does that solve? What problem does that solve?
How many people did the big steel company just lay off today?
Well, they announced 1,000 people will get laid off in March, is what they said. Yeah.
Okay. So, like somebody has to do the math.
Right.
The problem is Carney's going to lose. Carney's going to lose another 10 or 20 of the climate change eco-nuts that all, like I said, all of Trudeau's past wedding, I guess. And like I said, the problem will just go away, and these people can return to work, and they can start building what pipelines are needed to finish the XL pipeline.
Right. Okay. So, you're saying we could alleviate a lot of our own troubles if we opened up a lot of our protected industries, like if we started having.
On the contrary, Carney doesn't want that.
He doesn't want that.
I'll bet you $1,000 that Trump went there with him. That's why the conversations just came to a stop. No, he needs.
Well, these are. This is in the report from the U.S. Trade Representative, the annual report that he releases every year. He complains about this. We should have Bank of America branches in Canada. We should have Verizon in Canada, and whatever a big milk brand is in the United States, we should have that here. So
we do. I deal with Bank of America when I purchased, but there are like what they call a Class C bank. They might not have, might not be open to the public. But, Carney's not going to give that up. The Liberals are not going to give these people that. So, like
opening
I said,
up those protected industries. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Gosh, I wish I had more time to get to everybody today. We're actually leaving some people on hold. That's too bad. There's always tomorrow. Another topic, more of your calls, and always the latest breaking news coming right up on News Radio.